in studio by Seth Farber, the CEO of the advocacy organization E-Team, here to talk about all of the changes happening in Israel and how we're able to move forward and continue to live a pluralistic life in light of everything going on. Welcome to the show. It's good to see you, Rabbi.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
So obviously a lot has happened since you were here last time. We have a new government, all kinds of things that are happening. I guess first let's start with, where does your organization stand in its dedication to pushing through some of the initiatives that you've been working on in light of new government?
So every time there's a new government, and in the last few years it's been a lot of times, we begin again by meeting with the representatives that have been democratically elected. We believe that our Jewish agenda for the state of Israel is one that everyone should subscribe to, and we're cautiously optimistic. In the last government, we had a lot more inside, if you will, inside the, at the table, if you will. But in this government, I'm not devastated. I believe that this is all part of the ongoing process of Israel maturing and getting to understand the diversity of the Jewish people and the needs that the state of Israel has to respond to the diversity of the Jewish people.
Right.
So there are definitely some challenges. We had some legislation in play in the previous government regarding conversion that would have enabled more people, particularly people who immigrated to Israel. That's one of the big topics that E-Team handles, people who immigrated to Israel under the law of return but aren't considered Jewish by everybody. We had some legislation moving forward that would have enabled them to convert. Right now, it doesn't look like that legislation will be able to be moved forward in this government. But there's a lot of work in the rabbinical courts. There's a lot of work enabling women to take greater roles in Jewish life in this country, that I still think there's a lot of opportunities today, and we're going to push those forward.
And what does it mean for all of the people who are here, who are in the process of trying to convert and going through the process with that kind of door being closed? What does that mean for the people who are currently in Israel?
So I don't really think that the door is closed. We have in this country, for the first time actually, just now on December 31st, the Central Bureau of Statistics issued statistics for the year, and we know now there are more than 500,000 people who made Aliyah, who emigrated to Israel as Jews, who are registered in the population registry as no religion, meaning the state doesn't recognize them as fully Jewish. That's the population that E-Team spends a lot of time trying to help.
Right.
I don't believe that the conversion doors are closed. At E-Team, we have our own conversion court as well that's recognized, at least for now, by the state. And we're going to continue performing conversions to enable those people to be totally streamlined, or almost completely streamlined, into the center story, the central narrative of the Jewish people. So we're going to turn up the volume on that a lot.
Right.
At the same time, there's a lot of these people who want to get married in Israel, might need to, unfortunately, get buried in Israel. We want to try to help those people through. And when things happen like that, we want to increase our capacity in our advocacy center to help them.
We're going to take a short break, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be back with more of this interesting conversation with Rabbi Seth Farber. And we're back with Rabbi Seth Farber, the CEO of E-Team, continuing a conversation. You yourself are an Orthodox rabbi who really has taken on the dedication and the challenge to try to make Judaism applicable to those who seek it and those who really are taking their spiritual and life journey into returning to Judaism, as well as people obviously who are already here in this country who are secular. So if you could explain to me a little bit of, where it stands with some of these dialogues, like, is there still an opening to at least have conversations with people in the Rabbanut about some of these issues that we're facing in modern Israel?
Right. Well, in Israel, unlike the States, for example, there's close connection between synagogue and state. And what that means is that you can't get married here without the approval of the chief rabbinate if you're Jewish. And burial is also, to a large extent, controlled. Now, I'm a member of the rabbinate, and a proud member, even though many of the decisions that the chief rabbinate makes are things that I find are not as open-minded to the diverse needs of the Jewish people. But I feel very strongly that working from both within and without enables E-Team to have a good leverage to be able to move things forward. So today, on any given day, we convert people. Yesterday, we had a rabbinical court where we converted about 10 kids in this country, immigrants, full Jews, families who are traditional, but who aren't interested for one reason or another in converting through the rabbinate itself, and they'll choose the e-team conversion program. Yesterday, we helped a number of families move forward in terms of their capacity to be married. Last night, I got a phone call from a family that said they want to be married in the rabbinate, but they're looking for someone, one of e-team's rabbis, to help them navigate the system. Because it's controlled in such a bureaucratic way, that creates an enormous amount of disenfranchisement, that it creates a certain sense of alienation.
I mean, we have, all these rabbis that signed a letter that they would not receive Ben Gvir. So here we are in a position where a lot of American Jews who are secular, the majority of them, losing a connection to Israel. Is this cause for concern?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned that Israel isn't doing enough to reach out, particularly to the rabbinic community. And I don't just mean the Orthodox rabbinic community. I mean all the rabbis. These are the biggest allies the state of Israel has. And when rabbis sign letters that are opposed to the state of Israel, that hurts. It hurts terribly. And I think we need dialogue on both sides. I think that we have to lower the rhetoric a lot. We have to make sure the extremes are identified as extremes. And even when they're part of the government, we have to say, this is a state that we have a long-term vision for. So yes, along the way, there's going to be problems. What I always like to say is that Israel's about to celebrate its 75th anniversary. I'm very proud to be here for the last 30 years or so, and a long time in this country. But Israel's not 75 years old. It's 75 years young. And Israel has a lot of growth to do. And the Jewish people throughout the diaspora have to be committed to being part of this growth process. Israel needs to know that it is here and is responsible for Jews around the world, and not just for Jews, but for the general world. And at the same time, Jews around the world need to know that Israel is part of their DNA right now. And if we begin that dialogue again or restart it, it really needs to start. And I think the 75th anniversary is a really fabulous opportunity to do it. There's going to be tens of thousands of Jews visiting Israel over the coming 3 or 4 months. I'm meeting with thousands of them now to talk to them about reigniting that spark that talks about our shared future together. This isn't about disenfranchisement or alienation, quite the opposite. And one of the roles that e-team has taken on is to make sure that, at least in the Jewish sphere, Jews around the world feel comfortable here. They can live full Jewish lives here. They can participate in Jewish life here. If they choose to, they want to get married here, they want to be buried here, they want to convert here, those avenues of access are open. And I think the tone and the rhetoric has kind of carried the day instead of the substance. And I think e-team plays an important role in terms of toning down the rhetoric and turning up the meaning and the substance and the connection. So that's my solution. My solution is instead of being upset or frustrated about what's going on, we need to do more. We need to get more people engaged. We need to get more people involved. We need to take away the disenfranchisement, the extremism, and talk about the mainstream.
We're living here. We're living in communities with Israelis, mainly secular Israelis. I'm not, for example, myself. I'm not living in Jerusalem. People are very, very concerned about the new government and how it's going to affect their children in schools. And studying Talmud is I'm sure very important, especially now because of your fabulous wife. Women have access to learning Talmud. So how do we engage in furthering the understanding of Judaism while also not alienating the majority of the people who are living here?
So I think there needs to be much more dialogue. I know I've begun going around Tel Aviv and talking to people and meeting people in their offices and doing lunch and learns and things like that. And e-team has taken upon itself also that space where we're going to say we need to talk to people. People need to understand, and I get this all the time. People say, we didn't know there were people like you that talked our language, that have academic degrees, and at the same time believe strongly, firmly, they're uncompromising in their, not just in their faith and not just in their practice, but in their commitment to Jewish destiny. We just didn't know people like that existed. So we have to, in all of our areas of activity, e-team is turning up the volume. We're saying we have to re-engage and not disengage. And we have to relight the spark, both for Jews overseas, but also for Jews here.
Right. So what are your goals, now for the next, coming year? I know you're working on a lot of initiatives, but now as we now have ministers and all of that in place, are there immediate steps you can take in this first year of the new government? So
we're in our assistance center, which this past year helped about 4,000 families. We're setting targets much higher to help people who need help facing the religious establishment. There's a lot of sense of disenfranchisement. They can turn to E-Team. We have a hotline. People call us all the time. And we want to get that number to at least 5,000 or 6,000 this year, where people are going to be able to know they have someone who can help them live a Jewish life in the way they want, that it's respectful and responsive to their needs. So that's one thing. We're trying to increase the number of conversions we do. Right now, E-Team is doing about 20% of the Orthodox conversions in Israel. We'd like to increase that number over the course of the year, so we're doing a lot of outreach activities. And most important, we're trying, together with other groups, but we're trying to reclaim the mainstream narrative. We don't want people to feel disenfranchised. We certainly don't want Jews leaving Israel. We want people to understand that the Jewish story has arrived in the land of Israel. It arrived 75 years ago, and it continues. And even if there's some bumps in the road, and for many people, this might be a bump in the road. This government might be a bump in the road, and I get that, and I understand it. But see it as a bump in the road, and keep going, because we have a much bigger story, and we have a much bigger mission than just dealing with the day-to-day rhetoric that's so poisonous.
Right.
We have a much, much bigger story. We have much more to bring to the world. We have much more to bring to the Jewish people. And this country can actually be a light unto the nations, but more importantly, it can also be a light to every single individual Jew who wants to live a Jewish life.
Beautiful. Rabbi Seth Farber, thank you so much, as always, for such an enlightening conversation and so well explained.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck, continued success with all that you do.